Okay, here's the deal on breast soreness. You know that the American Cancer Society has women scared to death about breast lumps. And the good news is 95% of the breast lumps are nothing more than lymph congestion. If we have a technique to relieve the lymph congestion, we have a technique to muscle test for it. The American public is tremendously misled about mammograms. We already told you that they're a major cause of injury recall technique required. And the radiation is accumulative. And a new study just came out in Canada of 50,000 women. And the conclusion was the women who got regular mammograms had a 36% increase in breast cancer. Wow. 50,000 women, a Canadian study, had an increase in incidence of breast cancer compared to those women who were not getting mammograms regularly. We have alternatives to that. Most of the time, it's nothing more than lymph congestion. I'll show you how we treat that. We're not going to do it today, but I can still describe it to you. In place of the mammogram, we do trans-illumination. Do you know how they candle eggs? In a dark room, they hold the egg up to a felt surface where the light's coming through the hole, and they turn the egg, and they're looking for blood spots inside the egg with the light shining through the egg. Well, we do the same thing with the breast tissue. We shine a bright light. Like this is super bright. It's an LED light. We shine that through the breast tissue, looking for spots. And if we find no spots, we recommend skipping the mammogram. Now, if you find a spot with the light, this is called trans-illumination, then it's a person's decision if they want to, maybe they want to go ahead and do the mammogram. But as long as the light is negative, we recommend skipping the mammogram. Get the light test done once a year. If I get a volunteer up here, I'll show you how we test for lymph congestion. Okay, now you're going to tell the woman what you're going to do first and ask her permission. Is it okay if I put my hand there?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're going to do, this time we're going to test the pectoralis major sternal rather than clavicular. I'm going to push back. Then I'm going to squeeze with my thumb on the coracoid process, the fingers on the side of the breast. I'm going to squeeze and then retest. She goes weak.
You're holding the squeeze? Is that it?
Am I holding?
Holding the
Yeah. The question was, do I hold the squeeze? Yes. Hold the squeeze and test. She goes weak. It's not supposed to go weak. So that says to me there's congestion in that breast. And then the same thing here. Now you have to change hands. Oh, she shows both sides. That's the indicator for lymph congestion. Now, I'm going to show you the correction. If the muscle becomes strong, that's confirmation that it was lymph congestion. If the correction does not make the muscle go strong, then you might want to refer her out for further evaluation. But if you can clear that weakness, which we're about to show you how to do that, that's pretty good evidence that it's not cancer, it's just simple lymph congestion, which it is 95% of the time. Okay, so here's how you do it. You put one hand on the area that you squeezed, In the other hand, you rub the neurolymphatic for the tensor fasciae lata muscle. Tensor fasciae lata muscle goes from the hip to the knee. You're rubbing the lower 1/3. I'm rubbing the lower 1/3. And now I'm going to go right, if you went through the breast and came out on the back, then that's the second neurolymphatic. This hand stays where I squeezed. This hand rubs the back. This hand rubs the neurolymphatic, the tensor fasciae lata muscle. And I'll go back and forth maybe 3 times. And this makes the lymph tissue drain. And then you retest to see if you did any good or not. Hold strong. It's gone. Now, remember she showed both sides? Before we fix this side, let's see if the nutrition helps you. Lymph congestion is reduced by 2 nutrients. The herb skullcap and thymus tissue. Skullcap and thymus tissue. Okay, let's see if this helps. That helps. That's thymus tissue. So I would do both. I would do the neurolymphatics, and I would send her home with some thymus tissue. And I would send her home a skullcap. And just ask permission first before you do this, or explain what you're going to do, and see if they give you permission to do it. And hold up. This technique would not help cancer. It would not help cancer. If it didn't help her, it means it's lymph congestion and not cancer, because it's not a cancer treatment. If this hand actually touches the lump, what I do, I say to the woman, okay, before I treat you, I want you to feel this lump and in your mind measure how big that is. And then when we get done doing this, I say to her, okay, now measure it again and see if you can tell a difference. If you do this enough, you can get rid of it completely, meaning you get rid of the congested lymph node completely. Why is this so common? Because women take these deodorant sticks and they do this, and they plug up the skin pores in the armpit, and now the armpit can no longer excrete waste material in the form of perspiration. And the waste material that would have come out in the form of perspiration now drains into the breast tissue. So what a bad thing to do is to plug up your skin pores with some gummy deodorant stick.
What do you think of essential oils instead?
Essential oils are good.
With an oil?
You can do baking powder. Baking powder absorbs moisture. At a health store, they have a deodorant with no aluminum. Every single commercial deodorant has aluminum in it. Every single commercial deodorant has aluminum in it. Aluminum is a major, #1 factor for Alzheimer's disease, accumulation of aluminum. So don't be grinding that into your skin. At our house, we have a rock crystal. And we use a rock crystal for our deodorant. Okay, the question was, could the woman herself do this part? And then I do this part. And the answer is yes. Particularly if there's a lump there, she can be touching the lump I don't have to touch that area at all. I do this area, I do this area, and you get the same results. The question was, how do I dose the skull cap and thigh mix? In both cases, in my experience, it only comes in one strength. The capsules of skull cap in the health store, they only come one way. I give 3 a day. And then the thymus tissue, standard process makes one called thigh mix. It only comes in one strength. We get 3 a day of that one. So we do a 3 a day of each, one at each male of each, and that's how we dose it. I understand it's, what word do I want to use? Controversial, or you feel uncomfortable telling the patient that they don't have cancer, but you can word it in a way that you are comfortable with. You can say, well, according to the muscle test, it's just lymph congestion. In my opinion, it's just lymph congestion. And if you're paranoid about it, go get the mammogram. I tell them the mammogram machine was invented by a sadist. I have a patient, this is a true story, I have a patient who told me every time she goes in for a mammogram, she makes them promise her that in case of fire, they will release her from the machine before they run out the door. True story. I'm not in favor of preventative prostatectomies or preventative mastectomies. I understand in Jolie's case, she had a genetic marker that made her susceptible to that, and so she chose to go ahead and do it. It's a personal decision. It's a personal decision on the woman's part. You know, patients will say to me, why don't you vaccinate your kids? Because why the heck do you think I'm spending all this money on organic food and vitamins and minerals that I'm pushing down them every single day? That's my prevention. That's my prevention, not inoculations. If a woman, because of genetic markers, decided to have a mastectomy, I would not argue with her. I would say, yeah, that's your personal decision. Yeah.